Download the BCSN Plus app today. Local sports all the time. Visit bcsnnation.com for details. Discounts may apply.
Let's begin with Central Michigan.
Okay.
54 hits,
Yeah.
48 runs, 13 homers. What more can you ask of your team going into the MAC tournament?
I mean, it was pretty special. You know, we needed to, we swung the bats well the last month of the season, and when I look at what we did this past weekend, it's kind of a good culmination heading into an important week. I really like where we're at right now.
And it's crazy because at the beginning of the year, you said that defense and pitching was going to be your MO, and rightfully so. You bring in 3 new assistant coaches. But how much have your bats elevated to the level that your pitching and defense are at going into the MAC tournament?
Well, we were right on par. Our pitching and defense is what kind of carried us through the first half of the season, and we weren't really swinging the bats, and that was why we were able to kind of keep our heads above water. And then once we clicked offensively, it's made the games a lot easier. We've continued to pitch at a high level and play defense at a high level, and now the offense is going, so it makes the games a little more enjoyable in the dugout.
And after a weekend like that, you can pretty much pinpoint any number of players to spotlight. But Caleb Herbert, I don't want to call it a coming out party because he is a senior, but last year no homers, this year before Thursday no homers, and then he smacks 3 bombs in the past 5 days. How much has he elevated your offense, especially after a performance like that?
Well, a couple guys, you know, Herb's one. When we slotted him into the lineup a little over a month ago, he kind of made us go. He's kind of that spark plug that really got the offense going at the top of the order. And he did. He had some home runs this weekend, which was good, but he's been on base a ton, which is what we really needed. And then the guys behind him, Caden Konzak's probably been the most steady for us all year long. I mean, even when we weren't swinging it as a team, he performed really well. And he's been doing that his whole career. He's been a 4-year starter, and he's kind of been just the steady Eddie guy in the lineup. And then you got other guys like Troy Sudbrook, Charlie Sholvin. Both those guys are producing at a high level. And behind them is Cole Cahill, who this is really his first year playing, and he's second on the team in RBIs and had a lot of big hits for us.
But when you bring in 3 new assistant coaches, it could take more than a season to really get used to a new philosophy, a new routine. But how much faster have you seen development in your hitting because of them?
Well, you know, Coach Landon came, he's my pitching coach. He came in the middle of the summer, so we've had him all year. But to lose both my hitting guys in December and then bring in 2 new ones, that was kind of a tough situation. And everyone keeps asking me, what do you attribute the offensive kind of splurge to, I guess, or surge? And I would say I have really good hitting coaches now, but when you have one guy who's been the voice for 4 or 5 years, and that's what these guys hear over and over again, and you bring somebody new in like weeks before the season, there is a little bit of a adjustment period there. And while I think my hitting coaches now are outstanding, the guys on the team had to get used to them. They had to get used to the new drills, the new way we do things, the philosophies, and I do think there's a trust factor there. And now that everybody's kind of settled in, I think you're starting to see the fruits of that.
We can point to the Central Michigan game as kind of the series that shifted things offensively for the team. But if it's not the Central Michigan game, what series can you point at and say, if we're playing like that, there's nobody in the MAC that can beat us?
I mean, I would go back to, there's probably a couple. The one against Western Michigan when we swept them here, that was kind of the second week where we really started to hit the ball a little bit. And then, of course, I think the BG weekend, that was huge, you know, to lose on Friday night at Fifth Third and then come back and dominate the way we did the next 2 days. We swung the bats well and we pitched and we played defense. I would say those kind of Western at the beginning kind of kick-started us off and getting going. BG kind of solidified it, and then you kind of have that capper with Central at the end.
And with that, first round of the MAC tournament, another battle of I-75. When you saw that you were slotted in against the Falcons again, what's the immediate reaction?
You know, I have a lot of respect for them. They had a great season last year, and they had another good one this year. The MAC tournament is always a pretty stressful thing to begin with, you know, because you gotta go there and play well, and to tee it off against your rival in game one kind of puts a little extra topping on all of that. And we know they're good. We know we got to play well. But for us, we feel really good about where we're at, and we can compete with anybody in this league.
In that first game of the Battle of I-75 earlier in the season, Jacob Tabor was kind of uncomfortable a bit in the first few innings. What can he take away from that game and bring on Wednesday against the Falcons?
You say uncomfortable. He threw the ball well. His issue was fielding his position. Like, we had a couple, like a bunt play, we had a covering first base play, and it just looked kind of out of whack at that point. But he threw the ball okay. So I think for him, going into the tournament, he just needs to keep doing what he's doing. He's been one of the most dominant pitchers in our league. He's pitching at a 1.41 ERA and a really low whip, and he's hard to hit, strikes guys out. He's just got really dominant stuff, and their guy's good. Turner threw really well against us, and I'm sure we'll see him, in the first round. So it'll be a nice little rematch.
Not only will you see Turner, but Brady Birchmeier is back, Sam Seidel is back. How much does your approach change knowing that this is a much better Falcons team than you saw in the Battle of I-75 earlier?
Yeah, they got some good players back. Again, for us, we just do what we do. We just go out there and we execute our pitches, and it doesn't really matter who they have in their lineup. I mean, they're good players, but I think we stack up extremely well against them. And then our kind of X factor is that bullpen. If you get into our bullpen, I think our bullpen is deeper than anybody else in the league and in this tournament. So if we should get into a loser's bracket situation, which I hope we don't, but if we do, I think we have the pitching that can get us out of a loser's bracket and still have a chance to win it.
And if you guys were to lose on Wednesday, how much more does that pitching mean, considering you guys play at 6 p.m.? If you guys lose, you have to play at 10 a.m. the next day. Yeah. How much does that pitching matter, especially if you have that quick turnaround?
It is a quick turnaround, but having that kind of that top to bottom really strong staff gives us a lot of weapons, to, like I said, make it through a loser's bracket if we have to. But if we do what we're capable of, hopefully we don't end up in that loser's bracket and we just keep swinging the bats, keep playing high-level defense and pitch it.
Last year, the Falcons came in as the #1 seed. Didn't end up winning the entire thing. It was much more a Cinderella story in the MAC tournament than anything else. Can you guys see yourselves in a similar role like that this year?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, we go in probably the hottest team in the MAC with the best pitching staff in the MAC. So I think we're going to be pretty dangerous. But I can't really tell you anybody is going to definitely win the league. I mean, Kent State's got a great offense. So does Miami. We pitch it really well. We're swinging the bats. Ball State's always Ball State. You can't even count out Eastern Michigan. I mean, they had a great start to the first half of the MAC, and then they kind of tailed off in the second, but they can beat you, And I think this year there's no clear-cut favorite that they're going to dominate this tournament, which makes it really exciting when you go into it.
We talked about offense, we talked about the pitching, we talked about the defense. But is there one X factor that you can point out that if that goes well for you guys, you'll be a hard out in this tournament?
It's the hitting. I mean, I feel good that our pitching will be what it has been all year, which has been pretty dominant. The defense has been pretty steady. It's the hitting. If we continue to hit like this and produce runs, we will be very, very hard to beat. There's no doubt in my mind about that. So the hitting's the X factor in all this.